let's take a look at resumes. What is a resume? The resume is an introduction to who you are, to what your skills and capabilities are that are going. And here's the thing, I'm going to say this real fast. Back in the day, you could send out a resume that had really everything about yourself on it, all of your bells and whistles for all of your qualifications. You could send out a general resume to everybody. And then that HR person would be able to take those resumes, pull the information out of them that went along with the job they were trying to hire for. But now those days are over. Those days are gone. It is crucial that every single job that you apply for, you must tailor your resume to mirror, literally copy, paste, transfer, mirror the job description, the requirements, only if you meet them, of course, onto your resume. A resume is important because it needs to only have the relevant information about what would allow you to do the job that you're applying for. You need to be able to show evidence of your skills. What makes you a standout that you could literally join that company tomorrow and provide an immediate impact. And you need to explain how you accomplish tasks. How did you become someone that was able to be relevant and to be able to show relevant? How did you accomplish different tasks? And then every single bullet point, everything that you add in your resume needs to show value. And it's also important that you do not go above and beyond what they're asking for. If you have qualifications, certifications, education, any type of awards that exceeds what the actual job, what they're looking for, please, please, oh, here I am. Please, please, please do not put those on your resume. Do not show yourself to be overqualified, because nowadays employers are looking for individuals that really and truly will fill the position that they're looking to find the right candidate, rather than bringing somebody on board who can add value for later. They're looking for today. Can you do the job today? So let's talk. Is there a perfect resume? No, not really. It's a resume that feels good to you. Honestly, if you were to speak with, if you were to get 5 different people, for example, 5 different people that do my job, and sit them in a room and ask them all to look at your resume, everyone's going to have a different opinion and different thoughts. There are industry standards, and those are the things we're going to be discussing today. And I do want to tell you, it's really important that the resume that you put together, and hopefully, and I encourage you, please, please, please connect with your local career force. Our career force locations that are across the state, we have amazing people that love what they do, that are highly skilled and trained, passionate, that will sit down with you one-on-one, that can have those. We can do virtual meetings. We can also do in person. We can do over the phone. But let us guide you through how to put your resume together and talk to you about how to tailor it for each position. It is crucial that you have somebody help you make sure you're meeting that industry standard. And the other thing that's really important, you need to be able to feel comfortable about what is on the page. Do you feel good about how everything's worded? Can you speak to the truth about what is physically written on your resume? And then remember, again, I'm going to say this over and over again, your resume for each position has to mirror the job description, only if you're qualified for the position you're applying for. And then even when you have conversations with that employer, everything that you say, that you speak about, everything that you share needs to be in relation to how your current skills and your capabilities would allow you to provide an immediate impact, to jump into that team and be able to start and be a viable long-term team player. So no, there's not a perfect resume, but there's one that feels good to you. There's one that you could speak to that's honest and truthful, and that's going to mirror the job description so that folks want to get you in there. They're going to see it on paper, and they're going to like your capabilities, and then they're going to want to get you in for the interview. So there's different types of strategies when we're talking about resumes. We're going to talk about different types of call them best practices. And then again, it's important. The bottom line is you have got to feel comfortable that you can sell yourself, that you can say, this is who I am. This is honest and factual. Okay, so resumes are a review of your qualifications. It's essential information only. That's where you don't go above and beyond. You really do need to stick to the details of what they're looking for in that job description. And it's skills based. And you need to try to make sure that you look unique. What is it about you that makes you special, that makes you a standout from all the other applicants? And then your marketing, that is a marketing tool. You're marketing a product. You are the product. And you want to be effective. You want to make sure to get noticed so that you can get the interview and then they can see how likable you are. And then you have to be specific. Again, you have to target each job. You have to make sure you're tailoring your resume. And one of the things I like to remind people is take a breath. Take a breath. Remember, this may not be where you want to be in your on your career path right now. This isn't necessarily what you planned for yourself in your life because you didn't think, one second, Nyquila, no one thought that they were going to lose their job. We've had a lot of different scenarios happening with job loss. And just remember to take a deep breath and remember that everything is purposeful. And when you're on this whirlwind of trying to get your resumes together and figure out the interviews, remember to be kind to yourself and just to be patient, to reach out to your local career force and just do one day at a time, because this is a hiccup and you're going to get to where you're supposed to be. So take a breath. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so there are a few questions that came into the chat that I wanted to get here to you. One is, how do we know which trainings are required versus optional for us?
That is an outstanding question. For the so UI, the unemployment insurance, normally that is something that they would put directly on, like if you signed on to your UI account, I believe that they tell you exactly what it is you're supposed to be taking. Let me move this over here. And it should tell you, it should literally be written down kind of as a honeydew list. I'm going to copy this and put this on here. If you have any questions, I'm going to put this down there. This is the number, the numbers to UI, to unemployment insurance, so you can call and ask them, but it should be listed when you log into your account. It should tell you. But if you have any questions about UI, they're amazing people. Just reach out and say, hey, can you provide some clarity here?
What about using AI to help write cover letters?
So that is a great question. We do have, gosh, I don't think we have a cover letter class. We do have cover letter information. If you go to careerforce.mn.gov and you go up into that far upper right-hand corner with the little hourglass, the little search area, and type in cover letter, it gives information there. Anything about AI, I will tell you that CareerForce has not put information together yet to really discuss AI. And so they really want us to kind of stay on task. If you decide to use AI in any capacity with either your resume or your cover letter, please do take the time. Remember, AI is a tool. So please, if you choose to use AI for any part of your job search, cover letter, resumes, please be sure to go through and edit and make sure that you make that document your own with your own wording, because AI is very easy to spot. You want to, again, be your authentic self. Okay, great questions. And again, a lot of these things, if you reach out to your local career force, I'm telling you, awesome people. They can talk to you about different programs we have, different information. We have all sorts of resources. They're just really amazing, amazing staff. And we have wonderful partner agencies too. And this is what we do. So just call, just show up and say, hey, I'm not sure how to do this job search thing. I'm starting over, and we'll dive in and we'll help you make it happen. So let's talk about some of the resume basics. You want to keep it brief. Sometimes people's resumes look like War and Peace. It's just this long novel. You want to keep it brief. You want to have precisely what they're looking for. Do not go above and beyond. So it's they say that a resume is a preview of coming attractions. So that's the preview to what makes you great, to how you're qualified. Hey, call me for an interview, so that they can meet with you in person. They can have a Teams, a Zoom meeting, and see how you can bring value to their company. So remember, again, the resume portion, your application, the goal is that you want to get that interview. You want to get that face-to-face. So let's talk about the visual impact. The visual impact is when someone is actually physically looking at your resume. Let me move this around for a second. This is an example. It's kind of like a heat. Let me move this over here. There you go. This is like if when someone's eyeballing when they're looking at your resume, you see the little bit of the kind of the purplish blue. That's when their eyes are just kind of glazing over. And when it starts to narrow in and become the red and the orange, that's when the eye stops and it's focused in. And if you look at the one on the left-hand side, there's just so much information there. And you can see where the majority of the resumes getting the attention is at the top. They say the top 1/3 of your resume, that's the prime time, that's the prime real estate. That's where people are focusing in on seeing what your qualifications are if they want to call you in. And then you look at the one on the right, and it's more so they're going through the top, got a little bit of attention, then a little bit towards the middle. And kind of the big distinction between the two of these is one has more words and verbiage and takes up more space than the other. There's less white space, which is what we call it. Which one, tell me in the chat, the left or the right, do you think would be the better format from the heat sensing, the heat source where it's showing where the eyes are focusing? I think absolutely. It is the one on the right. The right is getting a little bit more detailed information, and that's just because it's easier to look at. It's easier to read. Now, one of the aspects of a resume that you want to hone in on is to make sure that your resume is scannable friendly. So it's important that it says use bold or capital letters to highlight information. So the only time I would use bold is when you're going to do your name. I would do your name and make it bold and capitalized. I would do, like, for example, your experience and education, do those, make it capitalized or bold. When it comes to the actual, your job title, I like to bold those things. One thing that you do want to avoid, please don't put italics, don't need to underline things, borders, lines across the page, text box, graphics, or color. Your resume should not be like a fancy artistic, there shouldn't be anything fancy about it. Someone mentioned AI previously. A lot of companies are using different types of programs to scan resumes to get them into the system and kind of help with sourcing. So that's where you want to make sure you don't have a lot of graphics and a lot of extra on there. Just keep it really simple, easy to read. Now, if you have, sometimes depending upon what your career path is, what industry you work in, sometimes you have to provide samples that show that you can do graphics and different details. That would be something separate, but that would not be actually on your resume. So what about the resume basics? Remember, your resume, it's a tool for selling yourself. It's a tool for saying, hey, this is who I am. Take the time to meet with me so I can validate my experience so that we can work together. You always want to be honest about your experience, and you want to put a positive spin. Let's just be realistic. Sometimes there's been things that have happened in our jobs that things don't go the way that ideally we would have liked for them to. There's always a way to put a positive spin on things. And that again is where you would want to connect with your local career force. We've heard all sorts of colorful, interesting stories and helped people through lots of challenges. And so we can help you with finding the right verbiage and then even kind of talking you through how to let go of things, to acknowledge something negative that happened, and then not camp out there and move forward. So please reach out to your local career force if you're kind of stuck on, hey, how do I explain my last position? Maybe you were terminated, or maybe your last work environment wasn't the best, and how to phrase things so that when you go into that interview, that you're able to speak positively, you're able to make a connection where you don't sound bitter or angry, and because that does translate. It does. And you want to focus on your accomplishments. And again, you need to target your resume for every, I'm going to say that over and over again, for every single position you apply for. And again, if you're overqualified, that's something we're finding is really common. Some people are having to go into different jobs that are maybe a couple of levels down than what they're used to doing just so that they can get in the door. It's important that, again, that you show that you have that immediate value, that you can go in and do the job they're asking you to do, but you're not going to come in and try to make major changes or have a lot of opinions because you're overqualified. And I always tell people that if of course for any position you're applying for, you definitely want to research that company. You want to look into the LinkedIn, look at the people who work there, look at their work history and what's going on to make sure you look at their vision statement and their mission statement to make sure that that's a company that you'd want to grow and develop and stay with. So if you do decide to apply and you do have to kind of downplay some of your skills to make sure you don't seem overqualified, make sure you do the research on the company to see if it's somewhere where you could authentically grow and feel good about working there. So let's talk about those resume basics. You have to kind of choose the format of the type of resume you want to utilize. And again, I'd mentioned earlier that that top third of the resume, it really is the most valuable. And again, you want to include white space. So that means not to just have it be just paragraph after paragraph after paragraph where they're reading a novel. You want to have those bullet points, that specific information to draw their attention to say, these are my qualifications, these are my accomplishments that are what are mirroring the actual job you're looking for. This is why I am the person you need to choose to have that that one-on-one, face-to-face, in-person meeting. And then also error-free. I have become I admit I have become a typo person. It just is what it is. And but when it comes to resumes and when it comes to certain documents, I have to have other people take a peek sometimes because you just get used to seeing the same thing and your eyes glaze over. It's crucial that you have someone else look at your resume. Let's say that you copy paste, you're looking at a job description, you copy and paste those qualifications onto your resume. Well, don't forget to highlight the whole entire, the actual, all the verbiage, everything on the resume, and then change the font, change the size so that everything is aligned. Have someone else look at it. Have a friend, a family member, walk into, call, email, however it is that you can get in touch with your local career force and say, hey, can we connect on this? Something I also encourage people, um, instead of just emailing your resume and just saying, hey, can you look at it? Maybe you email it and then say, could we make an appointment so that you can show me? You don't want someone to just give you fish and just to continue to feed you and to provide you with your resource. You want someone to show you how to do it. Ask the person to show you how to fish. Ask them, can you show me what it is about my resume? What areas do I need to pay more attention to? What are the areas that you see that are a concern? Because you want to learn and grow and be able to do things independently and to feel good about your resume rather than have someone just send it back to you and say, these are the things you need to correct. And then also that one-on-one time, that fellowship you have with your local career force representative is just really valuable because when you're on the job search and you're kind of in this siloed environment, you don't have as much interaction as you did when you were working. It's nice to have those conversations and to get to know somebody. But please contact your local career force. Say, hey, can we jump into my resume? I think I need some help here. And we would be happy to do that for you. And let's also talk about what are the different types of resume formats. So resumes can be formatted in all sorts of different ways. Of course, there's a chronological. So that's going to be organized by your job history. So chronological, so that's by the date. Oh, give me 5 seconds. And then there's the functional, which is actually kind of skills based. So that's organized by your actual skills and your accomplishments. And then, of course, there's the combination where it's just a wonderful splicing of all of the above. Yes, ma'am.
All right, now for the resume, what is considered brief? How many pages would that be?
That is a great question. So truly 2 pages, we really try to encourage folks to have that at the 2 page mark. There are certain industries and career fields where folks need to list just extensive certifications or skills that they need to be able, like maybe sometimes IT is like that. A lot of times folks that work in the medical industry. So it's just important that you're precise and that you're efficient with your time. And that again, I know it's amazing that a lot of us, we have these incredible accomplishments that we've had in past careers and educational pieces and awards. But again, please make sure when you are doing that resume, sometimes the part that prevents you from keeping it on the 2 pages is listing all of those accolades when it may not be applicable for the job that you're applying for. And that's where if you reach out to your local career force, we can help you kind of narrow that down.
All right. Now, regarding the top third of the resume being most valuable in the former career, my education was important. So I put it at the top of the page. It seems to be less valued in my current career. Do you recommend putting education after the experience?
It really would depend on, I think you kind of answered that yourself. That's an awesome question. It depends on if this is something that's crucial where you think in that particular industry, are they going to want to know right off the bat, hey, do they have this experience with the educational piece before we would even look at the jobs that they've done? So really that's kind of something you would have to dig into and ask yourself. If you think it's valid, absolutely put it at the top. I still see people do both. They put it at the top and at the bottom. Whatever you feel is most comfortable. Sometimes people, I think the norm is towards the bottom, but again, it depends on your industry. So, but that was a great, great question. So what about the different types of formats? How do you know which one to use? Choose the format that best tells your story. Choose the format that feels good to you, that feels natural and comfortable, where you could speak about what the individual is going to be seeing on the page. And then no matter what format is, again, you have to target your resume to mirror that job description. I know I sound like a parrot there, but gosh, it is so true. So this is an example of a chronological resume. We will have this, will be included on the email that we send out tomorrow. So on this, let's take a peek. We have our name at the top, the contact information. There's a summary. We have different skills, expertise, employment, and then here, the education's at the bottom. Let's take a peek at. Now this would be a functional resume. So what do we see the differences here? What can you tell me the differences are with the functional resume compared to the chronological? What immediately stands out to you? Tell me what you see. Is there anything that jumps out? Yeah, that's right. It doesn't. So you know what? Somebody mentioned about the employer's name. Technically, down at the bottom, like for example, it says activity/camp. It says organization name. That's where they would put the name of the company they worked for the purpose of this resume. They just kind of kept it general. But so this one is more based on the accomplishments, on the skills, rather than the actual position held. Now let's look at this. So this is with everything combined together. How does that feel? Like for my resume, I kind of have, this is what the resume, kind of the format I've always used for myself. It's a little bit more of a flow. I can tell you for an example up at the top, like I would put the actual phone number, and I would put the phone number with a little slash, and then I would put the email and then your LinkedIn. I think that's really important to keep that right underneath. Now let's look at this. So what about the basic resume? What are we seeing here? What is at the top? What do you think should be at the top here? What are we missing? Please put in the chat what you see. What do you think is missing? So we have Miss Elizabeth, job seeker. We have her home address. What needs to be changed here? We're just focused on Elizabeth and her name. What should we be changing here? Okay. So it's better if you do not put, we recommend you don't do any type of identifiers. An identifier would be, for example, your actual street address. So it's better if you put your name and then you put the city and the state, and then of course your phone number, and if your email, and if you have a LinkedIn. Now these have them all bunched in together. I like to do either the forward slash, and then I can never remember what it's called. My Lord, I need to look it up. But it's above the enter key. When you do shift above the enter key, it has the backslash, but then there's the straight up and down. Gosh, I can't remember what that's called. But it's better if you kind of have that. You have the first name, last name, and have that bold and caps. And then underneath you have your city, state, phone number, email, and then your LinkedIn. Yeah, but don't ever put your actual address. So yes, now let's jump into the objective. Someone was ready to jump into that earlier. So tell me what it is about the objective that you see. How should that be? How should that be different? What do you think needs to be changed there? Let's see in the, oh, very good. What else do you see? Tell me what you're seeing in the objective. How would you make changes there? So here we have, so this individual, their objective was to become a mechanical engineer. And then if you'll notice, they'll say creative and motivated engineer with more than 10 years of experience. Please be mindful if you are applying for a position that's asking for 5+ years and you put more than 10 years, they might cancel you out because you have, you're overqualified. And also, I do want to mention that these slides, we have some new slides that are in the process of being approved, and some of these are just a hair outdated. So words like creative and motivated, those are, I think those are words that have probably been phased out. So you'd want to use different types of verbiage that is more relevant for today. You could say results oriented. You could say skilled engineer, skilled mechanical engineer with, again, how many ever years they're asking for, not how many years you have, so that you won't become overqualified. But that, again, is an example of where you would connect with your local career force, and we could kind of help you journey through. Now let's look at this chronological resume. So what do we see when we're looking at the actual professional experience? What are you seeing and how that is put together? Please share with me in the chat, kind of what are you looking at? How would you make changes, or do you think that looks okay? How does that come across to you? Okay. Okay, now let's see what we have here. So this is where, and I'm kind of vary on this. So professional experience, you absolutely want to have that. That's great to do caps and to have that bold. I do like to do like the industrial engineer. That's where you're actually saying, hey, this is the job that I held. I would not underline it, but I would make that bold. And then I wouldn't do the years of experience, the company name, or the location bold. I would only have professional experience bold, and then I would have the job title. But that's where you would want to say, hey, this is the position I held, and then make sure they know the time frame and the location, and then with the city. Now, some people, I'm just going to address this now because it always comes up in the chat. Some people say, oh, hey, I worked at a company for 30 years, for 20 years, and I held multiple positions. That's awesome. You can put your actual first position, the held, and then the company, and then just go ahead and outline underneath, list the next position that you held with the company, and just go ahead and make that chronological. That will work out perfectly. We have folks that have asked a lot of times, they'll say, oh, I worked for a company that was bought out. Then you can just put the name, the current name of the company, and then you could put in parentheses next to it the name that it had held previously. Sometimes companies have closed. I worked for an organization that the FDA shut down, and so when I had that on my resume, I just put FDA closure next to it, so that you can just put kind of a little blurb. Sometimes positions are contract. I held a position that was a contract position back in Texas, and so I just put a contract position next to it. So there are little things that you can do to kind of notate company closures or different types of positions, name changes and things like that. So don't ever panic. And I also think that since COVID happened, employers, HR folks, they're much more mindful and aware of the different types of changes and things that have happened with people's careers and the time frames and even employment gaps and things. So just again, just be honest and do your best and fill out the information as accurately as possible. So what about the basic resume? Let's see. Oh, did it go backward? My computer and I are having a moment. Okay, so this is where we're gonna just get a little singing session to you just now. So this is the basic resume skills portion. So this is where it's talking about this individual. So they're an engineer. Okay, well, what are the qualifications for an engineer? And then this is again, I just cannot stress this enough. 5 seconds. I cannot stress this enough. Every so we're working in engineering now. So every type of engineering job is different. Every type of position is specialized. So remember, when you're filling out your application, when you're creating your resume for the position you're applying for, this is where you would only put in the qualifications that mirror what they're asking for. I know I can't say that enough. Yes, ma'am.
So we have a question that is actually related to what you're covering now. So on the overqualified and not pertinent to the position that you're looking for, should you eliminate some of the job history that does not apply to the job?
Wow, that is a great question. Um, some of the job history. So it's now if it's with one particular position, maybe the last position you held, maybe there were just some elements of the job that don't have anything to do with the current position, then yeah, you could take those out. I've done that before. If it's a, let's say you've held 3 different jobs in the past 10 years, and then one of them's not applicable at all to the position you're applying for currently, I would go ahead and include that because you don't want to have a huge gap in your resume. What you could do is look at the skills in the position that maybe isn't so relevant, but you could try to change the wording not to where it would be being false. You don't want to do any falsehoods, but maybe look at the wording and adapt it so that it can show transferable skills. You'd be really surprised at the different types of jobs. I spoke with one of our supervisors recently, and I mean, this person is an amazing, gracious, powerhouse, beautiful human being, does their job with excellence. And one of their first jobs was being a manager at a Kentucky Fried Chicken. And you know what? That's an amazing group of skills to be able to be a manager at Kentucky Fried Chicken. And I'm telling you, the skills that she learned, the people skills, the organizational skills, the conflict management, to be able to be resourceful, those are skills that she had way back when she was 18, 19, 20 that she's still using today. So, and that may sound strange to you, but remember, this is what we do. This is our profession where we can help you to be able to understand how your past skills or what you've done in what you're doing currently and how we can turn it into something that you want to do in the future. So please do connect with your local career force. Excellent question. There's always a way to kind of be aware of the verbiage and to kind of help it to fit along with the goal in mind. Yeah.
What are some of the info considers confidential and should not be put on our resume from the previous companies that we worked for?
That is an interesting question. I'm not really sure what direction to go. Anything that's not applicable for the current job that you're applying for, you want to always remember you're going to present yourself as being a professional individual. As far as just on the resume in general, you don't ever want to put dates that show your age. That's a great question. And that's again, a lot of these questions, we're going to want you to connect with your local career force. These workshops are for us to give you kind of a sampling of how to, for example, right now, how to do your resume, how to move around information and tailor your resume in the different formats. But really, we're also wanting to encourage you to make the introduction to go ahead and contact that local career force so that you can have that one-on-one with your local representatives who know they know your community, they know what's going on, that kind of the different job fairs, the job clubs, what's happening. So please, great question. Please contact your local career force to learn more. But so when we're jumping into, for example, this person, their engineering qualifications, remember, engineer, that's just our example for now. There's a vast amount of skills there, but then this individual is going to want to hone in the skill set for the actual qualifications on the current job that they're applying for. And then let's look at other basic parts of the resume. We're going to go to the education. So for this one, it's actually down at the bottom of the page, okay? So what is it that we see on this portion on this resume for their education? Is there anything that you see that should be different? Should we add anything? Should we remove anything? What are you able to see here? What do you glean that needs to be, does anything need to be changed? Maybe it's a trick question this time. Put in the chat and let's see what you are thinking. Okay. So really, the only thing that needs to be there is to show that there's a Bachelor of Science in Mechanical Engineering. And yeah, they can put that they, the location and the university that they attended. Now, let's say that now, remember, every job description is different. Some job applications will ask you, they'll say that the preferred, they'll have a preference for a certain type of education. And then they may also say that they will consider years of experience working in that industry. So I tell you that because I want to make sure, don't ever feel intimidated or that you cannot apply for a job because if you don't have that piece of paper, that educational piece, if the job says preferred, but then they would consider years of experience, make sure your resume has the years of experience included. Example, maybe you have had 10 jobs in your career, but you're only wanting to capture the last like 7 to 10 years. But there's a job 15 years ago that you held for 3 years that has the exact skills that they're looking for that would help you to be able to land this new job. Well, I would just put that in there. You don't have to put the entire all the other jobs before then. You could just add that at the end. So that's an example of please don't feel intimidated or that you don't qualify if you don't have that educational piece. And let's say that you have a certain degree, your master's, and you specialize in a certain area. If the specialization or your major minor, sometimes the minor could be applicable for the job you're applying for, then include it. But if it's not applicable, then don't include anything extra. That's where you just kind of want to be more efficient. What about the other resume sections you can include? A lot of people like to include their military experience. That could be very helpful. Let's say you have volunteer experience. Like sometimes if you want to go work at a healthcare system, it's a good idea to go volunteer. Maybe I've seen job descriptions where they've asked for people, they would accept volunteer experience. Maybe you volunteered in a victim advocate capacity or you volunteered with outreach. There are people that have volunteered in the legal system in different capacities, and that helped them in being able to qualify for a certain type of job. Remember, every single thing that you put on your resume needs to be applicable for the particular job you are applying for. It needs to be relevant and to have purpose. It needs to speak to your ability to do the job that you're applying for. If you have any type of leadership experience, now let's focus in on that. If the job you are applying for requires you to be able to lead people, if it is a certain type of a supervisory position, then that's where you definitely want to include that leadership experience. Now, if you are applying for a position that is more so kind of entry level or mid-level and it doesn't require that leadership, be very mindful because if you're applying for a position that doesn't need that leadership piece, but you have a lot of leadership in your background, that could be a situation where they say, oh, we can't bring this person in to interview them because they may try to take over the department, or they may not be coachable, or they may not. Just be mindful. Only include what's applicable. What about professional memberships? Maybe you are an HR professional and you have different SHRM certifications. Maybe you have certifications and things that you're actively pursuing right now. And so you could put those in there and put parentheses, actively pursuing or in process. And I do want to mention, it's my little commercial here. For folks that are on UI, that you actually are receiving the UI benefits, we have something called the Dislocated Worker Program. And that's where the state would continue to pay for your UI benefit. And they would also pay for you if there was some sort of professional certificate license. Maybe you are needing to take some sort of a training, or you want to kind of pivot your career and attend a trade like school or some sort of educational piece. There's a possibility that we could take care of that for you. And that's where you would want to connect with your local career force. And we also have, gosh, so many different programs and resources through our partner agencies. So definitely connect with your local career force. And any type of, again, only if it's applicable, different types of awards and recognitions, different types of trainings and certificates, it has to be relevant for the job that you're applying for. What about accomplishment statements? What is an accomplishment statement? So accomplishment statements, those are action words, and they're details like the actual task and the skill that you performed. And then what was the outcome and the result? All of those things make up an accomplishment statement. So let's take a look at that. Accomplishment statement activity. Okay, so tell me, if a person kept inventory, what's another way you could say that you kept inventory? You could just do a quick bullet point. I kept inventory, done. That's kind of a task. That's saying that's something that I've done. I've kept inventory. Okay. There's no teeth in it. There's nothing exciting that draws me in. It doesn't give me any detail about what type of inventory you took. Let's look at this. Also called customers. Okay. We kind of all call customers, don't we? We receive calls, we have outgoing calls. Everybody's a customer, right? Well, let's look at this. What if you said, instead of kept inventory, what if you said that you manage daily inventory of over 1,000 classifications of medical supplies? Do you hear how? Do you see the value in that? That's actually something tangible. That's something that they can visualize. That's something they could say, wow, on a spreadsheet that you could really demonstrate and show. Being able to manage a daily inventory of 1,000 different classifications of medical supplies. I've worked in the medical industry before, and wow, that's significant. And that has much more meaning and value. That shows, if someone just said on their resume they kept inventory, compared to an individual that said that they manage daily inventory of over 1,000 classifications of medical supplies, who do you think they're going to want to meet in person, to have that connection with? And what about called customers? Who doesn't call a customer? Everybody. We all call customers. It's all about the customer, which is important. But what if you said that you grew your client base from 0 to 70 within 2 months by effectively using cold calling techniques? Has anyone here ever done cold calling? I have done cold calling. You what is it? Smile and dial, and I've called and called. We used to have our metrics put up on the wall every day, and everybody knew what we were doing. Yeah, there's so much more value. Everybody calls customers. But what if you grew the client base from 0 to 70 within 2 months by effectively using cold call techniques? That gets you noticed. That gets you in the door. That gets the phone call where they call you and say, tell us more about who you are. And sometimes, again, if it just feels awkward to you and you think, how do I transfer my tasks that I've done into accomplishment statements? Reach out to your local career force. Say, hey, can we go over this and let's tackle it together? Now, what about the cover letter? Quick little blurb on the cover letter. Remember, if you will go to careerforce.mn.gov. And up in the top right-hand corner, it has a little hourglass for the, no, it's not an hourglass. I always mix those up. Magnifying glass for the search. And you type in cover letter. It has wonderful information there. Do not skip the cover letter. Some people think, oh, it's kind of old. That's fine. Whatever. Go ahead and do the cover letter. It just takes a few minutes. It's the one chance. What if you do a cover letter and 50 other people applied and they did not, and the individual that's going through the resumes really respects and prefer the cover letter? I know that for the state, at the bottom of our all of our job applications, it has the name of the recruiter, and a lot of times it will have their email and or their phone number. I would recommend reaching out to recruiters and say, hey, I'm applying for such and such job. Could you tell me who the hiring manager is so that I can address them in my cover letter? You want to talk about getting noticed. Even if a person could care less about a cover letter, if they're breezing through all the cover letters that say to whom it may concern, and then suddenly it has their name at the top of that page, they're going to say, okay, this is an attention to detail person. They took the time. So I would always do a cover letter. And a lot of times when you apply online for a job, it'll have the section where you go to upload your document. So let's say you upload your document, and then you have to do the pull down tab, and it could have where you either need to say resume. Sometimes it'll say supporting documents, education. If there's a cover letter tab when you do that pull down after putting your resume, then you definitely know that they're expecting it because they created a placeholder for a cover letter. But absolutely tackle that cover letter. We do have, the cover letter, you just need to put, it should not be a recap of your resume. It should be kind of some of the soft skills, some of the reason. I'll pop over to this slide. It should kind of state your intent for why you're applying for the job. Indicate why you're interested, and explain how you match the employer's needs. That's not restating your resume. That's putting information that's not in your resume. And include a thank you. Thank you for taking the time to review my information, and let them know that you're going to follow up. Thank you for taking the time to review my information. I look forward to connecting with you in person to discuss my resume and how I could provide immediate value to your organization. Be confident and let them know that you look forward to getting together in person. That's huge. What about the resume reviews? So we do have, we've made a wonderful upgrade to our CareerForce website. This one will still take you to it, but our current website, it's been updated, is careerforce.mn.gov. And I cannot stress to you the importance of getting together with your local CareerForce staff. No, being employed is not what you want to have happen. I'm telling you, sometimes we need to leave the situation that we were in, and everything that's happening right now, even though it just probably doesn't feel good. And I've been there myself. I've had kind of those crazy ups and downs and highs and lows of unemployment. It's purposeful. And I'm just so confident that if you will continue to connect, continue to utilize the resources, continue to talk with folks with CareerForce, that we can help you find your next opportunity, to help you exhale, to feel that support. That's what we're here for. That's what we love to do. Now, I want to thank everybody for coming to join us. Everything is a choice, remember? So we're happy that you're here. We like to make time for extra questions if there's anything in the chat. Where did my wizard go? Negrila. Is there anything that we missed? Oh, and I am going to throw this in. I think it's really important. Please be mindful that you're going to receive a lot of phone calls from numbers you do not recognize. On the regular, even when you're not unemployed, we always receive calls that we don't recognize. But now that you've placed your resume on different job boards and whatnot, be mindful that a job you applied for in Minnesota, the recruiter may be in California. Please answer all of those phone calls. Sound receptive and sound happy that you're answering the call. If it's someone you don't want to talk with, maybe it's a salesperson, you can say, oh gosh, thank you for calling, but I'm going to have to disconnect now. Thank you. And then you can hang up, and then you can press block. I will tell you, Nyquil and I, we both make calls to lots of folks. Sometimes people, I had a call this morning. I said, hey, I'm looking for Nyquil. And they're like, yeah, and who is this? Wow. If I were an employer and I loved your resume, and if that was the reception, if that's how you greeted me, I would have said, I think I had the wrong number. So just give people a minute to introduce themselves, give them a minute to explain why they're calling. And then also, please make sure your voicemail is professional. Please make sure that you are listening to your voicemails. Um, just answer the phone calls because sometimes it's hard to call people back. Be joyful, be happy, not joyful, but just be receptive and kind. That's a huge part. That's what I like to throw out there. Yes, ma'am. Anything that anyone wants to throw out?
Yes, let's see here. Let's try to address one because there's a few that are a little lengthy. How important or necessary is it to indicate if a position was a contract position or an employed position?
So I mentioned that earlier. I'm going to put this in the chat again. We have another workshop tomorrow that's pretty fabulous about interviewing. So like for me, I've had a couple of positions in my resume that were contract that were for a shorter time frame. So for me, that's when I put contract out in parentheses because I just wanted to kind of explain why I was only there for 5 or 6 months. So it's really your personal preference. Sometimes it just kind of helps if you were only at a job for a shorter period of time.
If you had a lot of management experience and want to apply for a non-management job, how do you adjust your resume?
That is a great question. That is not something that I would go into in a couple of minutes over our call. That's where I would definitely ask to recommend to connect you with your local career force. Sometimes I think also it's important that when you have conversations with people, you can let them know, hey, I've had the bigger jobs. I've had a lot going on. I'm really looking to just kind of go with the flow and learn your system. And you can also just kind of tell them, I'm not looking to hold that much responsibility. And I'd like to just respect what program you have going and just to learn your ways. But I would connect with your local career force for sure. It's kind of a longer, it's kind of a longer, um, use more words than I have for this time frame.
Let's see if we have time for one more. Try to make it quick. Let's see. So is there a difference in the position level that would indicate or dictate a difference in your resume? A line position versus vice president, senior vice president, executive vice president.
That's a good one. And again, that I would totally take that to your local career force. I will tell you that the email that Naquila is going to send out tomorrow, it's going to have links to even past workshops, which are really valuable. Another thing it is 11. Another thing I want to mention, please be curious. Please don't wait for someone to provide you for information. Please don't say, oh, someone didn't send me this, or oh, I'm waiting to find out about so-and-so. Jump on your nearest internet search engine and talk into the microphone and say, hey, I'm looking for such and such information. Tell me about how to do this with my job search. Type in what you're looking for. Be curious and find the information you're looking for. Be your advocate. So it is after 11. We are so happy that you're here. I hope you'll join me tomorrow. I'm doing the interview workshop. But look for that email. Stay positive. Connect with your local career force. Thank you, Nyquila, for your excellence. Y'all have a beautiful, beautiful day. Stay positive. Stay connected.